Hi, I'm gonna do a short video on the beginning. Thank you for those students that are doing the assigned work. I know that it's difficult. I believe it's always easier to learn from a human being, um, to get your question answered in person right away. And so it's a learning curve, and we've got about 4 weeks to learn through it. But I do think it's worth your time. I think you'll get smarter, which is hopefully your goal, and that you won't fall behind when a teacher says you're already supposed to know how to do this. Okay, so we're trying to end our year, Math 3, using distance learning. And let me first take second to go through all the things that all the websites that you might be going back and forth with. And first of all, it would be the homepage that the school has created, and so you'll see all your teachers there. And so if you go to my page, um, what I've given you are links that take you to Khan Academy. I'm also telling you what I'll be entering into the grade book. However, you don't need to frequently be on this page. So this video is specifically for Math 3. And what happens when I select the trigonometry link, that's the unit in Khan Academy that we're currently on. It'll take me to this page. And so on the left side, that's they call them skills. I call them skills as well. And so for this first week, I want you to do 5 skills and then try to get to quiz two. So the link will take you right to quiz two. And if you kind of scroll upward, these are the three lessons. Unit circle, there's 4 lessons. Unit circle introduction, radians, Pythagorean identity, trig, values of angles. So you see that word practice. I did the unit circle one, so that one shows that I've completed it. Also, the little check marks on the left show you whether or not that you've finished watching the videos. Again, all of these things are also in my learner homepage. So if you select the link from the school's homepage, this is where it will take you. However, if you just sign into Khan Academy, this is my page here, and I go up to the top right hand corner. Again, I am both a teacher and a learner in Khan Academy. So if I go to the upper right hand corner, it says view all changes, and I select it. You see I have a learner home, I have a teacher dashboard, and then also a parent dashboard because my kids are on Khan Academy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my learner homepage, and you'll hear me frequently mention that point. And you guys are sending me emails and say, go to your learner homepage. Now, immediately, since I don't have any goals, you may actually have a goal, but what you want to do is go to assignments because I've assigned things for you. And what you'll see is a whole list of things that pertain to the unit exam and the quizzes. And you don't have to watch all of the videos, but they will definitely help you. You don't necessarily want to go in this order, because unfortunately, sometimes it looks like the way I assigned it, I might have assigned it out of order. And so it's important to really understand that page. So what I made a little quick walkthrough page for another student. I'll post that on Classroom. So if I do select that first one and I go to where it says lesson page, it'll take me to just that lesson. If I go to the left side of the screen and I underline trigonometry, hopefully you can see that I'm selecting it. What it'll take me to is that page that I showed you that the full website page drags you to, which is overall trigonometry. So what I've done is I've watched this video, and I wanted to give you kind of maybe like my take on it. So the first video is the unit circle video that I just want to show you my notes on. And then the trig function, we'll do that one together. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do the first skill with you, so that hopefully it'll help. Please email me anytime that you are having trouble understanding the material. Watch the videos. What goes into your grade book are these things over here on the right side of the screen: the practices and the unit quizzes, and then eventually the unit
moving forward, you'd have to remember that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent's opposite over adjacent. But we're doing this in the context of the unit circle where this length is always going to be 1. And so the angle is always positioned in the same way. The hypotenuse is always positioned in the same way. And you're looking at triangles to try to explain the relationship between a triangle, a right triangle, sine, cosine, and tangent, and the unit circle. So if I were to pick any point on the circle and I was trying to explain to somebody what the x and the y coordinates are, if I go over to the left and up a certain amount, this value right here is described by the first number in the coordinate point, and the amount that I go up is going to be described by the second number that's in the coordinate point. And so now we're looking at these coordinates as lengths. So the x is the horizontal length going from the origin outward, and then the y is going to be the vertical length that I would need to move up in order to get to that height. And so if that was the case, that this is x and this is y, because x is this and y is that, then the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is the y coordinate because it's directly across from this angle theta. And then if the hypotenuse is always 1, then when I make the fraction y over 1, I could just say that the sine of theta, the what is opposite in the hypotenuse, which I would normally write as a fraction, is just going to be y because the bottom of the fraction is 1. Similarly, that the cosine, if I did adjacent over hypotenuse, so the adjacent is going to be the horizontal, that I don't really need a fraction to describe the cosine ratio because they said, well, we're just going to define these whenever the radius is 1. The tangent's a little bit trickier because the tangent is opposite over adjacent. It doesn't have the hypotenuse in there. So we will cover tangent, but it's a lot simpler to talk about sine and cosine because the denominator of that ratio is just going to be 1. Something else he goes into in the video is the concept that when you have a right triangle, every angle that's not the right angle has to be less than 90. But if we're going to reference a circle, that I can go on forever, right? 360 is one rotation, and then 720 is two rotations. And so this idea that it is a function and the domain is all real numbers, um, it's a different, it's a little twist on what you used to know about sine, cosine, and tangent. So what if theta were, 0 to 90, it would be a right triangle in this zone. But if I said that theta were equal to 120, what it would be me starting here, that's your terminal side, going past the 90-degree angle, and then going 30 more degrees, right? So that's where the apostrophe was right there, right? And so if somebody were asking me what the sine and cosine of 120 degrees would be, for example, then they're talking about this hypotenuse from 0, 0 to that point on the circle, and then my right triangle would look like that. Again, I still have an x, however, now the x is negative, and I still have a y coordinate, and the y is still positive. And so basically what ends up happening is that you have this one right triangle that could be viewed in any one of the four quadrants. Um, the other thing that is different that doesn't really relate to triangles would be if they were to ask a question like, what's the sine of 270? So 270 is 90, times 3. And so you don't draw a triangle, right? Because the hypotenuse is um, that side of the triangle. The hypotenuse is, it doesn't make triangle. So like I couldn't. So any other point on the circle, I would be able to draw a length that goes vertically to the y-axis and then back horizontally to the origin. But this case, if I was trying to go back to the origin, it's just a straight shot up.
And so that's when it's good to associate sine with the y and cosine with the x. Alphabetically, cosine, in the alphabet would be alphabetized before sine, and x alphabetically it comes before y. So that's one way to kind of think about it. So cosine is x, sine is y. So the sine of 270 is just going to be -1, and it's going to be the y coordinate at that point on the circle. So the angle allows you to locate a point on the circle, and if they ask you about the cosine at that angle, then they want the x coordinate, and if they ask you for the sine at that angle, then they want the y coordinate. So that is just basically my take on the Khan Academy videos. And so let's go back and do a couple of the skills. So, well, right here, see now I'm part of the learning phase, right? So the learning happens through the articles and the videos. What I just went through was the unit circle video in my words. And now I'm going to pause the video. The second one is like he's trying to help you with the upcoming exercises. And I'm listening to him. I learn a lot from Khan. I have great respect for Sal Khan. So, I know it's probably you're more used to the different setting, but try your best to try to get used to this at home. He's a really good teacher. And what he asked you to do in this case was pause the video to see if you can figure out the things that are at the lower part of the screen. What's the sign of MKJ? And so MKJ, if you follow the vertices, right, you're going to go from the letter M to the letter K to the letter J. So the vertex is K. He also in the video says that's theta. It's matched up with the symbol in the unit circle. That's theta. So what is sine theta? Sine theta would be the y coordinate. It would be opposite. And so in the diagram, opposite the capital K is the lowercase k. We did a little bit of that when we did the law of sines and cosines in class. So the correct answer for matching the sign of MKJ would be K over M. If I was using the diagram on the right, if it was a unit circle, it would just be K. Cosine would be J over M, adjacent over hypotenuse. And if it was the unit circle, it would just be J. And if it was oriented that way, the way it shows in the diagram, if it was in the second quadrant, cosine of any of the angles in the second quadrant are going to be negative because the x coordinate is going backwards from the origin. And then finally, the tangent, if it was just opposite over hypotenuse, and that would be K over J. So then if I scrub through the video a little, not scrub, if I scroll through it, he will probably be matching those together. And again, the videos are meant for you to try to learn from. I look at your activity and I see, did they just try to do the quiz 50 times for them to learn what all the right answers were? Or are they actually using the videos to try to learn? And that's how I am giving you the credit in Aries. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and do the first skill with you, and hopefully this, and it did see at the top, it says you can't level up with this practice. Again, what you want to try to do is level up to get mastery in trigonometry, or they have these little units. Okay, so let's go. Let's do 4 questions. And this is the first skill. So points A, B, and C are plotted on the unit circle. Which of the coordinates is equal to cosine 160? So start, this is your terminal. Once you get up here, that's 90. Once the 90 plus 90 is 180. So over here, when x is -1, that would be correlated with theta being 180. Now in the parentheses, that's your input. So 160 is the B point, because 160 is greater than 90 but less than 180. So what they want to know is, what would the cosine be? Cosine's the x, so it would be the x coordinate, and that's related to the cosine part of the question. And then 160 would be the point B, and that's because it's located in the second quadrant. So the x coordinate of point B would be related to cosine 160. And it's a ballpark, right? That you can't be super specific. This next one is more specific because they actually give you a measure of an angle there. Now that angle's not a terminal angle. That's the angle that's being created with the x-axis. So the x-axis on the left there is 180 degrees. The x-axis on the right is 0. That's where you start counting like a protractor. So this is going from 0 all the way to 180 plus 50 degrees more. So that's 230. And so there are two different choices. And so now if I knew that the angle was 230, the question is this going to be sine or cosine? And it depends on more specific parts of the question. So the x coordinate of point A is related to 230 degrees. And then the x coordinate is the cosine. And so it's answer F. For each point, select an angle that corresponds to it. So you would click on each dot. And so A and B are both greater than 90 and less than 180. And so it's either going to be 120 or 165. And it's going to be 120 because it's closer to 90 than it is to 180. Then point B is going to be the 165. Point C is going to be greater than 180 but less than 270. And then last question is which coordinates equal to cosine 180? So 180 is that guy right there, hopefully. So it's 180. So I know it's point C, but is it the X or is it the Y? And cosine is the X, so it's the X coordinate of point C. I hope this video helped, and please send me more questions. I will do as many videos. Hopefully the videos are good enough, or will get you what it is that you needed to progress. Remember, you can keep doing the skills over and over again. This first set of assignments are due by the end of the week. Please email me, and I hope that this helps.